I'm proud of the deal, and it's something that I'm happy that the men in our locker room will get a chance to vote on.
I can confidently say today that I'm going to vote yes.
Guys, do not worry. If we go on strike, we will make sure every player is taken care of.
But let's not be fooled. This deal is a really good deal for a majority of NFL players.
The guys who are saying no to the CBA are, as a practical matter, saying no to D. Smith, and the players, as they cast their ballots, need to understand that. Oh, just some of the voices of the past week or so as the NFL Players Association continues to vote on a new CBA. Voting opened last Thursday. It has been extended from Thursday night this week, the 12th of March, to Saturday the 14th, 11:59 p.m. Eastern. And in the interim, the NFLPA has elected a new president. I thought they should postpone the presidential vote until after they knew what the CBA outcome was, because you want to have a president who's on board with whatever the path is for the CBA. But Peter King, Chris Sims, Mike Florio here at PFT Live as we talk about the NFLPA meetings that concluded yesterday with the election of Browns center J.C. Tretter as the new union president. Peter, I think that no matter what happens with this CBA vote, the most important job for J.C. Tretter is to unify the union. They are too scattered. They are too divided. And my guess is that owners are salivating at the possibility of going back to the table and continuing to negotiate with a group that is fighting so zealously among itself right now.
Mike, I had Dan Kaplan of The Athletic on my podcast, which drops today. And one of the things I said to him, I said, you know, the election of J.C. Tretter reminds me of of what's happening in the Democratic primaries right now, which is, you know, the people who want the calming, unifying voice, they're all picking Joe Biden. You know, the people who want to say, let's blow it up, you know, they were going to root for another candidate. And so, when the Democrats were going to root for Sanders and the players were going to vote for Michael Thomas. And so in this particular case, I think what happened in Miami on Tuesday is that the players said, hey, listen, D. Smith, we're okay with you leading our union, and we don't want to blow this whole thing up. And whatever your problems is with Russell Okung, they're not our problems. You guys work that out, but we don't want to get in this brawl right now with this contract. It's just my feeling. But I think that was a very good day for D. Smith, as well as for the more moderate voices in the union.
Yeah, agreed. It definitely was a good day for D. Smith. I'm still very intrigued to see where this vote's going to go as far as what the results are. And, I know they extended the voting period, and we're hearing talk about, guys wanting to change their vote. And, Mike, I know you wrote that the common notion out there is that people who voted yes want to change it back to no. The big thing that it does bother me, okay, and what Mike House started this segment, lack of firepower, lack of stars there. It's bothered me throughout this whole process. It's bothered me in the last CBA. Where are the star players? Hey, I'm going to give credit to a guy like J.J. Watt, even though he didn't give a lot of details into why voting no. Or Russell Wilson. At least they came out there and put themselves out there. But where are the rest of the stars? Aaron Rodgers seems to be the only guy who's really him, Russell Wilson. But Aaron Rodgers seems to be the only guy in that cream of the crop superstar guys that we talk about in the NFL who seems to ever want to tackle these issues head on. And why he was there, not there, I don't know. That's not a good look either. I don't get that. But I just don't understand. It doesn't look a good look for the players, and it just shows that it's not totally unified there. And I think nobody is going to put more pressure on the owners in this situation and things to get done than the big-time star players. And that's where, I got issues with that. I didn't like that about the last CBA. Drew Brees was the only guy that was like that marquee guy that got involved. Where was Peyton Manning? Where was Tom Brady? Where's Tom Brady now? Where are those type of guys to make a stand and get in the player's corner, have some wise words? People would listen to a guy like Tom Brady. Players would listen. I just wish that in general, altogether, there would be more high-profile faces talking about this and trying to hash this out and lead players in the right direction.
And let me just expand on that a little bit, Chris, because once again, I called an audible and I moved forward, and you assumed I talked about this, and I didn't, which proves you weren't listening to me, and you never do.
Probably not.
There is some consternation among the members of the union because these meetings were open for anyone in the union. Yes, the executive committee's there. The Board of Player Representatives is supposed to be there. But J.J. Watt, Russell Wilson, you're going to do a drive-by on Twitter. You're not going to show up at these meetings and engage. And Aaron Rodgers, he's the guy that they're most upset with because he is the Packers player representative and he wasn't there. And Mason Crosby is the only alternate and he wasn't there. The Green Bay Packers players did not have a vote on anything that was decided by the Board of Player Representatives this week because Aaron Rodgers didn't show up and Mason Crosby didn't show up. Now, I haven't seen any explanation as to why he didn't show up, but the belief is he's just upset with the process. He said recently that it was disheartening, the reaction that he got from teammates when he sent out an email explaining his views on the CBA. By all appearances, he's just decided, I've checked out. The board voted for the CBA. The players are voting on it. He didn't show up. The two guys who did get a lot of credit for showing up at the meetings and hashing it out, the Pouncey twins, Marquise and Mike, they were there, engaged in the discussions, not shying away from the confrontation that permeated the entire 3 days of meetings. But, you know, they have to learn how to work like the owners do, Peter. The owners will fight behind closed doors, but the rest of us have no idea that it's happening. The players cannot, if they want to maximize their bargaining position, if this thing gets voted down and they have to go back to the table, they do not want the owners to understand how fractured they are because the owners know it, they're taking notes, and they cannot wait to negotiate with these guys again because if this deal does blow up, the owners are going to end up with a better deal when they finally do work something out.
Well, there's no question they're going to end up with a better deal. It won't get done this year. Okay, so if it doesn't get done this year, that's $700 million that the owners don't have to spend. And I keep just asking this question. Look, if you are going to vote, if you're a player and you're voting to blow up the system and not sign anything until you get 50 or 51%, okay, just understand what that means. It means you're not playing football in 2021. Okay, that's the first thing. But Mike, here's the second thing. For people who vote no, I just want to say that this is what they're voting no against. They're voting no against a 20% pay raise for 60 to 65% of the players in the NFL. And that is money that those guys will never get back because they will play for the lesser figure in 2020. They're not going to get that, even if the thing is improved next year. Okay, they're never going to get back the money they would have lost this year. Secondly, if they vote no, they're basically saying to 11,000 former players, guys who played in the 60s, 70s, 80s, who have a pension, max pension of $30,000, okay? They're basically saying, we're not going to give you guys a 53% hike in your pension. And this was a huge part of these negotiations. Nobody talks about it. And I don't know why. Baseball has always been applauded for taking care of the people who came before them. Football, I've covered this game for 36 years. The biggest problem in all of these labor fights is the old timers say, you guys always forget about us.
Right.
They didn't forget about them in this one. And can you imagine if this gets voted down, how incredibly ticked off that 11,000 former players are going to be because the players basically denied them this huge raise in their pension. And when they go back to renegotiate next year or sometime before the 2021 season, where are the players going to take money away? Because they're not going to have as advantageous a contract. They'll take it away from the retired players. And so I just look at this and look, they should vote their conscience. They should vote whatever they want. They should understand, however, what they are voting for if they do vote no.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. And yes, it is good to see, some strides made for the older players. As you know, my dad, of course, yeah, he's fortunate, but he's got issues. I know a number of his teammates, they're falling apart. You know, they played in an era where they played on AstroTurf, and the rules didn't take care of players as much. And it was two-a-days every day, and it was full pads every day. So there's guys from that generation that really need help, guys that played in the late 60s, 70s, 80s. And this does go a long way to helping them out, for sure. My big thing is something I said yesterday, and Mike heard me say this, is just that, you know, I just haven't heard enough good reasons for a no vote. You know, I understand it. At first, when everything started to get thrown out there and, it seemed like things were being rushed to the voting system and, you know, there was some things not hashed out. There was the talk about where did the 17th game for. At first, I was like, yeah, this doesn't seem right. I think I would vote no. But as more and more time has gone and the more people I've listened to, yeah, I just hear more reasons to vote yes than no. I only thing I hear about no is, it's been rushed. Oh, there's not enough on player safety. Okay, well, what do you want done? I don't hear ideas there. I just kind of hear anarchy. And I don't know if I hear necessarily things that make sense to me. So, again, I want to vote. I want to hear that. I want it to be a yes vote. I just want better leadership from the superstars in the NFL. And I don't get why guys weren't there. I don't understand it either. You know, I know when I was a player rep, last thing, I know I'm talking too much, is, you know, I had to go to a meeting one year and I had a vacation scheduled. And by the time they told me this meeting was about to come about, I was already locked into vacation and spent money on a hotel and so I was screwed that way. And I didn't get to go to the meeting either. I just wonder if this was scheduled late or how it happened, but I'm disappointed that there wasn't more marquee players involved.
They do this meeting every year in March, and I'd like to think they communicate with the player representatives well in advance so they can plan accordingly for that little slice of their offseason to be there. And if you're going to be a player rep, you need to be there. And if you're an alternate and you know that the main guy isn't going to be there, you need to be there. Your team needs to have a voice, and the Packers had no voice. And there were a couple of other teams. I told initially there were 5 teams not represented by anyone, and that eventually, as the meeting went on, whittled down to 2 or 3. But you've got if you're going to take on that responsibility, that's why it's a responsibility. You need to be there. But look, I think there have been a lot of flaws with how the proposals were communicated, how the effort to get the executive committee on board, which ultimately failed. I mean, God, when have we ever seen this in sports where the body that negotiates the CBA then votes against the CBA that they negotiated? This thing has been rife with confusion, Peter. And this is why I'm going to go back to my original point. J.C. Tretter needs to get everyone on the same page. And I don't think it's going to be possible because if this vote goes through and the new CBA is in place, there's still going to be guys who are against it. Russell Okung has initiated an administrative process. I think he's going to eventually file a lawsuit to try to blow it all up. And if the vote fails, you're going to have a lot of guys who are upset that players voted without understanding the ramifications, and this thing is going to echo well into 2021 and maybe beyond, and it's up to J.C. Tretter to find a way to get everyone on the same page, or they are going to get destroyed at the bargaining table by the owners.
Yeah, what's interesting is that they elected, and I mean, look, I've never met J.C. Tretter, so I don't know him, but, I mean, here's a guy who, you know, is an Ivy League guy whose major was in the School of Industrial Relations at Cornell. And so to me, I mean, he's probably a very good guy, to be the president of this union for a while, because I think they need somebody who would be more of a professional. He had a very well thought out, and you sense that he would be a no vote on this deal. He had a very well thought out piece on Twitter that you could link to read, some clarifications on everything with this deal. Again, my only thing about that is where has been from the union, from anybody on the board, from anybody saying, hey, listen, we negotiated $300 million, of buy-ins from the owners to give to make the lives of 11,000 former players a little bit more palatable. And so that to me is one of my biggest deals. But Mike, I agree with you. J.C. Tretter has got to build a bridge between the apathetic people among the union, and that's probably half the players, judging by some of the reactions that you hear. But he's got to build a bridge between the guys who hate the deal, guys who love the deal, the apathetic guys, and just say, hey, look, you guys have to trust this union. I think he has to rebuild the trust in the NFLPA that I think has been lost in this negotiation.
Yeah, and I think it's not going to be something that happens quickly, but time is of the essence.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.